Hello again, everyone. Welcome into Inside Sports. I am Mark Keller. Glad to have you with us for this week's show. There's now less than a month remaining in the regular season for winter sports. Just about 4 weeks for teams to tighten up and fine-tune for the postseason. So while things have cooled off considerably outside, things are heating up in the gyms around Washington County. So we're going to take our next 2 shows to get you set for the home stretch of the regular season. And we'll have the Herald Mail Insiders here to help with that. Kevin Dunleavy and Bob Parcelletti are here this week to discuss basketball. Kevin on the boys' side, Bob on the girls' side. We'll have the 2 of them stick around for some off-season talk also, specifically football and the MPSSAA's proposal to expand the postseason field by shortening the regular season from 10 games to 9. I'm eager to hear their opinions on that. We'll also take a look at the social media circuit to see what's been happening the last few days and tell you how you can be part of the show by tagging us on Twitter and more. So that's what's in store for you this week. Stay with us. Inside Sports starts right after this break.
When you elevate nurses, you reduce an entire town's blood pressure. Specialized medical training means top nurses, top care. Meritus. Healthcare transformed. How do you give a patient healthier healthcare? Give her doctor, nurse, PA, and therapist the same health record. Introducing electronic health records. One patient, one record, one click. Meritus. Healthcare transformed.
For the last 2 years of my education, I was going to work full-time, school full-time, and raising 2 young children by myself. I think that anybody who's desiring to continue their education or to advance their career, I think that USMH provides convenient location, affordable pricing, and again, they have instructors that really care about sending their students off with the experience and the education that they need to succeed.
When it comes to hearing loss, who will be taking care of you? Audiologist Dr. Karen Hamilton is Hagerstown's hearing doctor, working to improve the quality of life for those with hearing loss. At Audiology Services, Dr. Hamilton focuses on evaluation and diagnosis to provide solutions for treating hearing loss. Using the latest technology, she programs hearing aids to meet your unique needs and ensures they fit properly and comfortably. Audiology Services participates with most insurance companies and will check benefits and file claims on your behalf. Dr. Hamilton and her team also serve the community through Hagerstown Hearing, which focuses on providing crystal clear sound in places such as theaters, churches, offices, and homes. Hagerstown Hearing installs looping systems that allows those with hearing loss to enjoy speech clarity and noise reduction, providing an experience like never before. To learn more about Audiology Services and Hagerstown Hearing, call 301-790-3300. Audiology Services and Hagerstown Hearing, providing crystal clear sound.
Welcome back to Inside Sports. Going to talk some boys basketball now. We bring in Herald Mail insider Kevin Dunleavy. And Kevin, good week for Williamsport last week. Got past one team that beat them before and close on another one. Tell us a little bit about their week.
Yeah, they started the year with 2 losses, one to Middletown, one to Oakdale. They avenged the Middletown loss, did it pretty comfortably, and did it without Caleb Bowers, their second leading scorer, and a real good guard. And then the Oakdale game, they fell way behind, but they really came back. They figured out a way to compete with Oakdale, and they made it. They got within 3 points in that game. So, considering they had been blown out by Oakdale 4 times in the last 2 years, this bodes well for their playoff chances because they're probably going to face Oakdale again in a region final because they're both going to be section, top seed in their respective sections. So I think there's a lot that they can draw from that, even though it was a loss.
You said it looked like they kind of figured out a way to play against Oakdale. Was there something that you caught in that gave that perception? What did you see that changed?
It just seemed like they defended in the half court, they defended so well, and Oakdale didn't really have an answer for that. Oakdale really depended on their fast breaks to get all their points, and I think Williamsport, knowing that, just being more vigilant about staying back and maybe keeping a guy stationed at the top of the key and just really thinking defense rather than trying to hustle down offensive rebounds. I think that may be the way to go, and because they're once they get in transition, they're really lethal because they can shoot the 3 off of it, and they got multiple layups. I bet they got 2/3 of their points off fast breaks in that game, and Williamsport had to work for every point they got, because everything was pretty much in the half court. So I think given what they experienced in that game, they'll be able to adjust and be able to compete with them now.
One team that had been chugging along early in the season, but it kind of hit the skids a little bit, was Smithsburg. Got things turned around a little bit last week.
Yeah, they had lost 4 in a row, and then they were down to Brunswick, not a real strong team in the second half. They were down by 7 or 8 points. And then they ran off 18 points in a row and really had a nice game. They scored 30 points in a quarter, and you rarely see that in high school at any level. But maybe they're back and right, and they've had a lot of transition throughout the year with their rotation and who they're playing, and the sophomores have really taken over that team. Ryan Snyder, Colin Witt, and Morgan Hyman, and it looks like they've got a really bright future having 3 sophomores that are that good and that diverse, having a lot of different abilities that, it's not like 3 players that are similar at all. They've all got different skill sets.
Go from the east side of Washington County out to the west side in Clear Spring. Talk about scoring points. Put up a lot of points last week, the Blazers did.
Yeah, they're fun to watch. They had 85 against Smithsburg and then 81 a couple nights later against Hancock, and a lot of that was fueled by they used pressure defense, and they have a unique weapon with Mike Myers. He's about 6'3", and he's at the top of that defense, and he's tough to deal with. They give up a lot of points because you pass over top of it. It's not going to be that difficult to score, but he can create a lot of havoc. And once they get up and running, even though they're not a deep team, they can be pretty effective. But then Monday night they lost to Berkeley Springs, so a really disciplined team that probably dealt with that kind of half-court pressure really well.
You talk about the points, and Myers has kind of been the catalyst as far as that goes for the Blazers as well. He's still leading the county.
He's leading the county by about 5 or 6 points. I mean, he doesn't even have a challenger, and he's got a really good inside-out game. He can do it in the half court, and when they get in transition, he's super effective because he's mobile enough to score in a lot of different ways. So they're fun to watch. They're going to play Williamsport here Thursday night, so that'll be really interesting to see Lincoln Ball against Mike Myers and maybe the 2 best public school players in the county, although Christian Teague might have something to say about that.
Sounds like a matchup you want to watch. We'll go from now the west side down to South County. We're hitting almost every corner of the county here, and we talked a lot about Boonesboro finally getting a first win. They finally got the second win now here last week as well.
Yeah, they're starting to show some stuff. They're starting to get a little bit of identity. Peyton Westcott has been a pretty good scorer. He had a broken wrist last year and hardly played at all. And when they've had good games, it seems like he's been their top scorer. And they've got another guy named Cameron Day who has become a big rebounder. He had 17 rebounds against Catoctin, and they beat Catoctin. And Catoctin's an improved team this year, so things are looking up for them slowly but surely. They're starting to figure things out. And Jacob Humble had a torn ACL back from the football season. They would be a pretty tough team with him. I don't know if he's going to be able to get back on the team this year. Maybe late toward the playoffs he'll be able to come back, but that would be a huge lift for him too.
It's interesting you said kind of finding an identity, and I guess it's difficult to find that identity without the wins, but you get a couple wins and a little bit of confidence. It makes it a little bit easier to kind of identify who you are as a team.
Yeah, and I saw them earlier in the year, and they were playing a lot of different guys. It didn't look like they had a real good, solid feel for what they could do well, and I think maybe that's coming now.
Touch real quick on a couple of the private schools, and Heritage and Broad Fording playing a big game in the MDCC on Friday. Yeah,
Heritage is really fun to watch because they're really cohesive. They're small. I mean, they've got 4 of the starters are 5'10" or less, and but they've been together for a long time as far as on the court as starters, as a unit, and it really shows. They run their stuff really well. They pass really well. Broad Fording's in another class talent-wise, and Broad Fording is playing better now that every year they have a huge transition with their foreign players that come in. But that could be an interesting game. That'll be at Heritage. Heritage lost the first game by 19 points. Broad Fording's won 30 straight games in that league. But this could be a challenge for them.
All right, sounds good. Kevin, thanks for joining us. We'll see you later on in the show. Stay with us. We'll have more basketball coming up. Bob Parcelletti joins us to talk girls basketball after this.
We've been coming to Rick's for about 3 or 4 years. The staff at Rick's is wonderful.
It is the Cheers of Hagerstown.
Everybody knows your name.
They've actually become a lot of our friends.
Treat you like family. They know you by name.
It's nice to be able to go somewhere as quality as this that's not a chain restaurant.
The food is unique. They get creative. It's fresh food.
And they make great drinks.
The word is in. Local, casual, and always epic. That's Rick's Cafe.
For decades, Antietam Media Services has been committed to bringing our county local coverage of the events that make us unique. And this winter is no exception with our coverage of boys and girls high school basketball action. This week, we're bringing you live coverage as the Gales take on Broad Fording Christian Academy. Tune in at 6:45 on WCL-TV channels 806 and 6 and on the WCL-TV on the Go app for your mobile devices. And don't forget to join Mark Keller for Inside Sports every week on Antietam Broadband.
If you add it up, 12 spots a year for 25 years, close to 300 different commercials I've used Antietam Cable Production for. In terms of the experience with the production department, the truth is, we've become friends because we've done it so often. The staff is very, very professional. They make it easy for me to do the spot. That's the biggest thing. And we have a lot of fun doing it. And it works. It brings people to the dealership. And that's all I can ask.
Welcome back into Inside Sports. Changing now from boys basketball to girls. We're going to have Herald Mail insider Bob Parcelletti join us. Bob, thanks for joining us today. We're talking basketball, but you're likening one of the teams here in the area in girls basketball to a football team, and that's the St. James Girls, and you kind of compare their offense to that of the Kansas City Chiefs. Explain yourself.
Well, it might be a bit of a stretch, but it's just the diversity of it all. I mean, the Chiefs, you watched them all year. If you watch football, I mean, they could go long, go short, go up the middle. They had an answer for any defense that came to them. And, for everything except for the overtime the other day. But, St. James has a team put together that has a lot of pieces that can do a lot of things. It's just a matter of getting to the right person at the right time. They have Skylar Treadwell, who's gone over 1,000 points at the school. She's only the second girl ever to score more than 1,000 points. She can go outside. She likes to shoot outside, but can drive it inside. You got Morgan Mosley, who does a lot of stuff in the paint, but she can go outside and shoot the ball. You have Morgan McMahon, who is very possessed. She goes out there, and I mean, she's one of those that, like a fullback, would run through a wall to do something. I mean, she gets over, she gets the ball, she goes after the ball, she aggressively goes to the basket, she scores or she dishes, And then you have this 8th grader by the name of Gabby Grantham Medley, who has just come out of the woodwork for them and has gone nuts. They've put her up there. I guess starting out, she was kind of deferring to the older girls, and I think Nate Naylor said that he was going to pull her off to the side, said, "You're up here for a reason." And she's starting to perform. And with it, she's inside. She drives the ball. She's the point guard that deals the ball. She does a whole bunch of different things that really makes all this stuff work fast. And I'm not sure she's Patrick Mahomes in this, but she does a lot of things to facilitate. And with it, they've played very, very well. And I would have to say they're probably the best team in the county.
And what's really telling about that is one of the names that you didn't mention, Krista Bartlett, who was the Herald Mail's Player of the Year last year on the girls' side, and she's basically their 6th man, right? Well,
she's the glue, I guess, in a way. She does a lot of things that really don't get stats. Last year, she was passing the ball around, and I was told that basically they wouldn't be as good as they were last year if it wasn't for her ability to do a lot of things. The other day against Camille Zanayich from Ligretti, she basically defended her out of the game and took a very valuable part away from Goretti.
Gretty's been playing well as here of late as well, and is Zanayich the main reason for that?
Well, she's a type that she can control the game, and if she gets a lot of assists, that means a lot of people are doing things. In this particular game, it didn't work. Peyton Kirshner is the big shooter for them. She's a 3-point threat, and if she gets going, they're really strong. And then they have Kyria Stubbs out there too, and they're moving along.
Williamsport, we talk a lot about them, but they're undergoing some kind of growing pains right now.
I think, a lot of sports, it goes through cycles, and Williamsport has had a lot of players that have been older, that have been holding down the fort. Now, all of a sudden, the cupboard's a little bare because they don't have very many upperclassmen, and they're relying a lot on sophomores and freshmen. And so they're at a point where they know the defense that Kevin Murphy wants to run. They just don't have that killer instinct. They think too much and try not to make mistakes, and I think they're inhibiting themselves from scoring. And it was pretty evident in the game against Middletown, where Middletown has a girl by the name of Sailor Poffenbarger, and she basically took over the game. They scored 36 points. She had 25 of them, and it was a point in the game, especially in the second half, where in the fourth quarter, she scored all but 2 points, and it was like she knew that she had the ball and she was going to score, and nobody could stop her. And there's as much as they play good defense, they didn't have anything to match up with that.
Kind of take this full circle a little bit. We talked about versatility at the beginning. That's something that Smithsburg has been showing here recently as well, the versatility of their offensive players.
Well, they have, I think the linchpin in that is Ashley Davis. She stepped into the point guard with Lexi Henderson being ill the other day. And it's a great position for her because she facilitates so much. She works on the wing a lot, but when she has the ball in her hand, a lot of good things happen. So, Heather Barnes is their outside shooter, but anybody can shoot from the outside for them. But the one I like in this, that's the constant, is Bailey Grove, because she's always gets in there. She's always getting rebounds. The last year, she was the big rebounding threat. She was the only rebounding threat. She was getting the ball. She was getting to the foul line. And she's kind of undersized, as center people go, but she really does the job. She's got just enough physicality to get in there and get it, and it all works for Smithsburg.
All right. Bob, stay with us. We're going to have Kevin Dunleavy join us again. We're going to talk some football coming up after this break.
Frostburg's program at USMH was definitely closer to home, allowed me to stay at home while I had the opportunity to substitute in Washington County Public Schools. The scholarships at USMH really allowed me to walk out, being able to pay it off much more quickly and being able to pursue my graduate degree at a quicker rate. I would say to anyone considering USMH, allows you to build better relationships in the community and something that's definitely a great opportunity to pursue and leads to a better career.
For decades, Antietam Media Services has been committed to bringing our county local coverage of the events that make us unique. And this winter is no exception with our coverage of boys and girls high school basketball action. And Wednesday night, it's a boys-girls doubleheader live as Smithsburg takes on Williamsport. Coverage starts at 5:15 on channels 806 and 6 and on your WCL-TV on the Go app, a free download from Google Play or from the Apple App Store. And don't forget to join Mark Keller for Inside Sports every week on Antietam Broadband.
We've been coming to Rick's for about 3 or 4 years. The staff at Rick's is wonderful.
It is the Cheers of Hagerstown.
Everybody knows your name.
They've actually become a lot of our friends.
Treat you like family. They know you by name.
It's nice to be able to go somewhere as quality as this that's not a chain restaurant.
The food is unique. They get creative. It's fresh food.
And they make great drinks.
The word is in. Local, casual, and always epic. That's Rick's Cafe.
Welcome back to Inside Sports, everybody. Joined now again by Kevin Dunleavy and Bob Parsoletti. We're going to be talking out of season a little bit here, talking some high school football now, and the MPSSAA's proposal that's on the table now, awaiting a vote, that will reduce the regular season from 10 games to 9 and will expand the playoff field in each region from 4 teams to 8. And guys, this proposal has been out there for a couple weeks now, floating around. There have been a lot of talk about it. I'll start with you, Kevin, and just your initial reaction to that proposal, and has your reaction changed to the proposal since you first heard it?
Not a whole lot. I was surprised because it just seems like we expanded just a few years ago, but and now we're going to a proposal that teams that aren't even 500 will be in. So I think it'll lead to more blowouts. I don't like it at all. That first round is just going to be, some of the matchups are going to be bad, although you've already got some bad matchups now, but it's going to be even worse.
Yeah, we'll take a look at some of those matchups and see what they are. Bob, to get your initial reactions too about that proposal and what you thought about it.
I might work for the bigger divisions. I mean, but when you get down to 1A, there's only so limited numbers of players, let alone limited numbers of teams. I mean, you have a lot of magnet schools in Baltimore that are supposedly fielding teams, and they don't always show up because they don't have enough players. So I think that really, it doesn't help 1A at all. I think it just muddies it more. The only thing that I think it does is there's a couple of teams out there that are always complaining because they don't get to go on because they get knocked out early. And this is supposed to be the remedy to give them the chance.
That was one of the things we heard a lot in Class 1A, 1A West, where a lot of the teams in Washington County reside. We heard for years that Fort Hill and Allegheny always were the two best schools in 1A, and they couldn't possibly play in the state final, even though they were the top two teams, because they had to face off in this region format. This format would kind of change that, because two teams would come out of each region, and once we got to that round of 8 teams remaining, it would be seeded from 1 to 8 across the entire classification, so it may change that. Another instance of that, Kevin, was Oakdale and Damascus in Class 2A West this past year. Most people assuming and thinking that those were the two best teams. Now there's a possibility that, well, they could end up playing in the state final.
That's the best aspect of it. I covered sports in Montgomery County for a while, and for a while it was Seneca Valley and Damascus, often facing off in that initial round, and they were known to be the two best teams. So in that way, I think it's a good proposal.
Bob, do you think this, and we talked about those matchups, those first round matchups, we look at what the 1A West matchups would have looked like in the first round last year. You would have had Fort Hill against Clear Spring. You would have had Catoctin against Allegheny, who was a team that finished at 4-5. Your 3-6 and 4-5 matchups wouldn't have been bad. You'd have Boonesboro against Brunswick, Southern Garrett against Mountain Ridge, but is a Fort Hill Clear Spring matchup something that, well, we'll just have to accept that if we want to get this better model in the later rounds of the playoffs?
Well, I think that's what it's going to come down to. You're going to have to accept it. But for Clear Spring, they'd be all excited because it's the first time getting into the playoffs. But it's going to come at a price. I mean, if putting them against Fort Hill, especially with the limited numbers that they have on their team. And actually the experience that both these teams have, because those kids at Cumberland played football forever, and it's sort of a fairly new concept in Clear Spring. The experience alone is going to be tough on them, and I could see where it could hurt a lot more things than help.
And this is not to put down the Clear Spring program or any program at all. It's just kind of magnifying the disparity in the matchups here, and Fort Hill Clear Spring may not even be the widest margin. You had in 1A East a matchup of Havre de Grace, who got to the state final in 1A last year. They would have ended up playing, Kevin, 1-9 Washington in the first round of the playoffs. So it's quite a wide disparity that we could see in the first rounds.
Yeah, that would be the downside. But those teams that have been the top seeds have really had an easy first round matchup either way. So I mean, this will accentuate it even further. But I think it's half one and whatever that saying is.
6 of one and half a dozen of another. One good thing, and my first thought when reducing the regular season to 9 games was it sort of cheapens the season a little bit by taking away that 10th game, but teams will be guaranteed 10 games in the schedule. Those teams who don't make the top 8 in each region will end up playing another team within their region that didn't make the playoffs. So, for example, this year we could have seen a Smithsburg-Hancock matchup in Week 10. Two teams that wouldn't have made the field in 1A West would face off in Week 10. Do you like that idea?
Well, the only problem with that is that they'd have to wait till the last minute to schedule it. So there's not really, the logistics of it all becomes a muddle, I mean, I'm sure teams will know if they're in or not the run as far as the running goes, but it's still going to be a matter of coming up with them. There was a thought of having a secondary tournament set up so that 10th game was guaranteed and seeding those teams in order for them to play against each other, but that kind of went by the wayside.
One of the things this proposal has done, Kevin, is schools have ended up having to make basically 2 schedules at this point for next year because they don't know if they're going to have a 9-game schedule or a 10-game schedule. And one of the things we talked about last week is the possibility that a 9-game schedule, we could have a north-south game in week 1 of the 2019 season as opposed to week 10 or the final week of the season, which whether that's 9 or 10 games. This is a game that's been the traditional season closer for these 2 schools for 58 years now. Now we're going to a season opener. What do you think of that? The kind of mixing up the traditions a little bit.
Yeah, that would be rough tradition-wise, but I mean, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, I think you'd then get your schedules back in order and you'd probably reinstate it, within another year and get it back to the last game. But maybe for 1 year, it's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens with the vote when we have a decision on that from the MPSSAA. Well, I'm sure we'll be talking about it more here on Inside Sports. Kevin, Bob, thanks a bunch for joining us here. We'll have more at the social media segment coming up after the break.
Hit it, Dolly. Move or die. Bring it on, One-Eyed Willie. Your bullets, they're really fast.
You want to fight for what's right? Sometimes you have to fight dirty.
Tell me they got that in slow motion.
Deadpool 2.
Digital customers, tune to Channel 1 to get started.
For the last 2 years of my education, I was going to work full-time, school full-time, and raising 2 young children by myself. I think that anybody who's desiring to continue their education or to advance their career, I think that USMH provides convenient location, affordable pricing, and again, they have instructors that really care about sending their students off with the experience and the education that they need to succeed.
Welcome back to Inside Sports. We'll close out today's show again with our social media segment as we take a peek at what people have been talking about on Twitter and Facebook over the last few days here in the area. The Washington County Indoor Track and Field Championships were postponed from Saturday to Monday due to that winter storm that was rolling in, but it didn't seem to affect the South High boys team. At South Hague Track tweeted this Monday evening, Indoor County Track Champs, we're so proud of this hardworking group, #RebelTrackNation. It was the first ever county indoor title for the South boys, and it ended a 6-year title streak by the Boonesboro boys. It wasn't all bad for Boonesboro, however. The girls team returned to the top of the heap in the county. Supervisor of Athletics Eric Michael at WCPS Athletics tweeted this from HCC Monday evening. Congratulations, Boonesboro girls, you're 2019 WCPS Indoor Track champions. The Warriors held off a challenge from North Hagerstown to take the county's top prize. Coincidentally, the Warriors had won 6 straight titles before being knocked from the throne last year by the South Hagerstown girls. Smithsburg Athletic Director Ryan Myers at Berg Leopards tweeted this prior to Tuesday's home game. This is it. It's what we've been training for, SHS Leopard Pride, Coaches versus Cancer Week at American Cancer. #Purple Out, #Purple Rain. Wear purple, wear sneakers, be loud. And if the Leopards dig pink night during volleyball season is any indication, there will have been plenty of purple in the Smithsburg gym. Hopefully we'll have a picture to show you next week. If you're heading out to a game or a meet or a match, remember to reach out to us or tag us on social media and let us know about all the cool stuff that happens before, during, and after the games or events. On Twitter, you can get us at Inside Sports OL. On Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat, it's at Inside Sports Now. Whether you have a picture, a video, even a meme, we want to see it. If you do that, we could include your social media post in this segment next week. And speaking of next week, we have a busy week for you. In addition to our regular episode of Inside Sports, we'll kick off our slate of live broadcasts of high school basketball on Monday, January 28th, when Broad Fording Christians boys take on St. Maria Goretti at the Gale Center. Then we're back at it Wednesday, January 30th with a girls-boys doubleheader from Smithsburg, where the Leopards will take on the Williamsport Wildcats. But that's just half of the games we'll bring you this season. On Tuesday, February 5th, we have live coverage of the city rivalry as South Hagerstown boys travel to North Hagerstown. On Tuesday, February 12th, we see the Rebels on the road again, this time playing at Williamsport. And our final game of the season is Monday, February 18th, as the Clear Spring boys play at Smithsburg. We hope you'll tune in for those games, and we thank you for tuning in to Inside Sports this week. Thanks to Kevin Dunleavy and Bob Parcelletti for being here. Have a great weekend, everyone. We'll see you back here next week on The Inside.
Hey, your sisters and your brothers, your haters and your lovers, you gotta get up in the streets.